A Spiritual Approach to Emergent Technology, written and read by Unicron. Part 3. This audiobook is available for free because the words are more valuable than money. Please consider donating to Unicult if you can. Eliminating greed. Greed must be eradicated from the process of innovation, creation, and distribution. Greed is the unending fear that there is never enough. It is a lack-based mindset. Greed is not the same thing as self-love or self-preservation. Each person deserves to have their needs met. Each person deserves access to a deep sense of psychological, spiritual, emotional, and material security. Greed does not actually address this security. Greed is insecurity to the point of damaging others and the self in the attempt of getting more. Greed is the inability to see when there is enough, to be secure, and when there is enough to share. Greed stems from lack. On Earth, we have many strange systems built on incorrect presuppositions. Money, for instance, is built on lack rather than abundance. Money is meant to represent abundance, but the way that it operates for the average person is from a place of insecurity, stress, and fear. These things are the antithesis of abundance. In order to progress societally and technologically, we must be aware of the emotional and spiritual implications of our innovations and systems. From the understanding of the emotional and spiritual reality, we can more easily align our systems in a form of divine benefit. To eliminate greed from society, we must first eliminate lack. Automation, goods distribution, and system of community resources must be created. Closing the wealth gap and providing the basic necessities of healthy food and safe shelter must be given to everyone. From the place of abundance, we can then begin to work on healing the space that greed occupies in our global psyche as an interpretation of success. To change our collective understanding of success, we can promote new concepts of security through media and leadership. Healing programs for individuals and collective lack-based trauma can be made available to the public. As all things are on the macro and micro scale, you can personally begin with this work by acknowledging the spaces of lack and greed in your own psyche. In what ways are you competitive? In what ways do you feel that your success is predicated on other people's suffering? In what ways do you feel you need more than others? In what ways do you feel you never have enough? By healing your own wounds of lack and insecurity and replacing that energy with unconditional love for all, you will begin to call in radical, authentic abundance for yourself, your businesses and projects, and Earth as a whole. As we eliminate greed from the planet, our technological progress will explode in ways we currently understand and in incredibly satisfying ways we cannot begin to imagine. The electromagnetic spectrum and potential for technological harmony. To understand technology and reality the way that I do, we must try to see reality from the perspective of frequency. Sound, gravity, and electromagnetism are all different manifestations of the frequency reality. The electromagnetic range is a frequency range that makes up much that we see and know. Most of our technologies operate on the electromagnetic spectrum. Here are a few important things that are on or that utilize the electromagnetic spectrum: X-rays, visible light, thoughts in the form of electrical brain signals, cell phone signals, microwaves, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, heat, the human heart, AM/FM radio, and sunlight. For a good time, buy a poster of the electromagnetic spectrum. All things are energy, but that statement doesn't help us move forward technologically speaking. Instead, it is good to start with the energy that we already work with. By understanding the electromagnetic spectrum's current role in our biology and technological evolution, we can begin to understand just how important this frequency is. When I refer to vibration of a higher or lower frequency, this is what I'm referring to. When we see the deeper implications of the electromagnetic spectrum and touch the surface of quantum physics and string theory, we can more easily understand the Unicult presupposition that the fundamental component of the universe is not physicality, but consciousness. Light is another word for this conscious energy which is manifest into everything that we know, all of reality. The word light works well here because the visible light spectrum is on the electromagnetic frequency range. The fact that we can physically see the electromagnetic field, albeit a small sliver of it, is miraculous and amazing. May those of us who can see take a moment to be grateful for this miracle. Consider that we were given sense organs that could interpret a wider range of frequencies beyond the visible light spectrum. The only thing that separates visible light from the rest of the electromagnetic spectrum is our sense organs, which can interpret it. Now imagine our sense organs could interpret all electromagnetic frequencies. How would our understanding of reality change? How differently would we view ourselves and others? I believe that the ability to tune into all aspects of all frequency spectrums is a divine right. I believe we each harbor this latent ability, and by focusing our attention on it, we can develop these abilities. This could be considered as extrasensory perception, or ESP. The idea of higher and lower don't always make sense in realities beyond duality, but from the dualistic framework it can help us find a direction to move toward. As we move toward this beneficial direction, everything becomes clearer and easier for us. Whereas, when we move away from the benefit and toward detriment, things get murkier, heavier, and more difficult. Frequency is matter, frequency is mind, frequency and vibration are controlled, felt, and interfaced with by our own conscious feeling state. Ignoring our body's own bioelectric expressions when developing technology has been very detrimental to the body and the mind. While we are highly adaptive creatures, ideally our technology would be harmonized with our bioelectric structures and our etheric bodies. This will only become more obvious. The human instrument. We are, as humans, electromagnetic sensors and generators. Our entire world exists as a frequency soup. The full range of the electromagnetic spectrum has an effect on our consciousness and our bodies. Our nervous system uses electricity to communicate with and sense the world. Our eyes pick up just a small band of this frequency. Our brainwaves occupy another. Our audible spectrum, the frequency that our heart emits, and heat are all different expressions of the same range. We have incarnated with a specific set of sense organs that show us reality in a certain way. If our sense organs were more attuned, or attuned to different bands of frequency, we would be able to distinguish a different range of the spectrum, and our perception of reality would be very different. I truly believe it is our uni-given right to access any level of reality or consciousness that we so choose to access. Thus, I believe our bodies, minds, and higher consciousness are capable of picking up and distinguishing between every potential frequency. Many frequencies are not attributed to the physical body, but require a stillness in the spirit to determine. The future of technology will be in creating consciousness technologies that work with human or digital consciousness to determine these currently indistinguishable or subconscious frequencies. These frequencies have an effect on all of life, independent of that life's awareness of them. Human imagination. The ability to imagine is the most powerful creation technology that exists. While sexual energy holds the domain of life creation, the imagination and powers of visualization allow for all other forms of creation to flourish. Every single thing in this world that was built by humans was first imagined. This goes for physical forms, and it also goes for social structures, forms of media, and conceptions of value. All religions, stories, and ideas were developed in the space of imagination first. As we share imaginative space, we create this reality together. Unicult understanding of reality and truth. In Unicult, we believe that the fundamental component of the universe is consciousness. To understand how this consciousness works within the world that we traditionally understand to be fundamentally physical, I created a system called Levels of Reality. Unicult Levels of Reality is a practical form of information theory that understands every point and collection of points as data sensors for the collection of energy or information of the universe. For instance, myself as a cohesive collection of points, the atoms in my body, my consciousness, my cells, brain, endocrine system, chakras, etc., is operating under the guidance of one oversoul consciousness, which is what I call Unicole. Across space and across time, this collection of points, otherwise known as me, interacts with other points and collections of points. Unicole is a point in many other aggregate systems that each have their own unique perspective. Family systems, community systems, the Earth system, other oversoul collectives, etc., are all aggregate systems that my conscious experience contributes to and likewise benefits from. The aggregate data, otherwise known as Unicole, is the data that I generate for God, or the collection of conscious information, the oversoul of all light, if you will. It can also help to think of a planet and her moon. As a planet, an oversoul of many parts, exists in space, she orbits around a star. The information of the orbit across time is information. The orbit of the moon across time is also information. Their dance across time is information, which is part of the whole. All things are information. This information changes every second as other things interact with it and exert influence on it. Each of these points of data is independently conscious, perhaps not in a way that we as humans would relate to, but in a more cosmic way. This inherent consciousness permeates every single aspect of existence and is, in effect, the universe experiencing itself. Unicult levels of reality. Unicult teaches 5 levels of reality. Each level of reality is a form of truth that is rooted in valid information. Personal reality. Personal reality is your own reality that you perceive from your conscious experience. The way that you interpret the world is valid and important. Social reality. Social reality is the collective collaboration of reality that 2 or more people agree on. The idea that money has value is an example of this level of reality. Social reality is a form of information that is valid and important. Physical reality. Physical reality is the physics engine that we live in. It is very important and valid to understand physical reality so that your physical body can remain safe and intact. Spiritual reality. Spiritual reality is the system of spiritual truths and rules that exist for all beings in the universe. Spiritual reality is hard to see on Earth because of the corruption we are entrenched in. But as we move forward with love, it will become clearer and clearer as a vital point of information. Ultimate reality. Ultimate reality is the collection of all data points in the universe and the data that they have gathered over time. The interconnected nature of the universe exists because of the singular consciousness which holds us all. The levels of reality help to illustrate the ways in which our current system of understandings and governance fail us. We tend to value physical reality and social reality only, while ignoring and belittling the reality of the individual or the spirit. To move us forward into a system of government that is replaced by information, we must first honor all forms of information. Consciousness as the fundamental reality. My approach to reality presumes that consciousness, not physicality, is the underlying aspect of the universe. I believe this is a rational approach considering the fact that physical matter only makes up a small part of our universe. When questioning my own awareness, my self-referencing looped conscious reality, I see that physical matter only makes up a part of my life too. My needs, wants, desires, and actions are all guided by a conscious, spiritual, emotional motivator which is connected to my body, but controlled by my higher mind. Furthermore, approaching the universe in this way allows for the mind to expand into many possibilities it otherwise wouldn't. To feel the conscious energy of the universe and to work in tandem with it is a great joy, compared to the structural prison of the materialist approach. String theory, quantum physics, and meditation all point a strong finger at the effects of consciousness on reality, not the other way around. As a larger picture, I see the universe as information and each point in that reality as marked by space-time in this dimension and as information sensor. Each point in reality exists in a unique way and is thus a valid and valuable spiritual sensor. From this presupposition, all things are consciousness in the sense that they are feeding into and connected to the same consciousness. You do not need to approach your cosmological paradigm with the same beliefs that I carry. I share this view with you only to explain some of the concepts which may otherwise not make sense to a materialist later in the text. Harmonization of technological frequency. We have forged forward into the technological realm of frequency without any subtle awareness for its effects on our bodies, minds, or spirit. Our foray into radio and microwave frequency technologies, while miraculous for communication, has been blamed for a myriad of issues. The radio and microwave frequencies are responsible for radio, Wi-Fi, and cell phone service, 3G, 4G, and 5G. There is reason to believe that these technologies were specifically developed out of alignment with the human instrument. That is, they were developed specifically to be discordant technologies. Military contractors do not usually have the well-being of the end user in mind when developing new technologies, and that is exactly who invented and developed our current communication platforms. When a certain frequency range is saturated, other attempts to use that frequency are disrupted. Tuning a radio between two established stations yields a chaotic result. This is why radio stations have specific frequencies that they broadcast on. When we can understand the importance of harmonizing the energy on each frequency band, we can more easily understand the harm that not doing so can cause. So many systems of life use electromagnetic communication. Our very own cells use certain frequency ranges to do a myriad of functions. Bee colonies use certain frequencies for communication and direction. The Earth itself generates a frequency that cannot be felt in cities due to the cacophony of artificially generated frequencies. When devices are used to replicate the Earth's frequency at a range of 7.8 Hz in people's environments, they report feeling better and sleeping better. There are so many systems of life that utilize frequencies that we haven't fully understood. To forge forward with these technologies as we have, for greed-based purposes, has caused unseen and misunderstood havoc in our lives. Many people claim sensitivity to these technologies, like Wi-Fi, cell signals, and Bluetooth. These frequencies are known to disrupt fertility, sleep patterns, and the peace that an individual cultivates. These are our basic human needs, and the disruption of these biological systems should not be taken lightly. The fact that this technology is out of alignment with our basic needs is a clear indicator that we need to approach it with a solutions-based, all-one mindset of benefit rather than detriment and greed. The current approach to technological innovation asks users to be less sensitive and to numb themselves through massive exposure to artificial electromagnetic frequency, or EMF, technologies. I believe this is the opposite direction that we should be moving in. Our sensitivity is our superpower. When we align our sensitivity to EMF with our technologies, we will create an entirely different relationship of interactivity, communication, comfort, and ease. The concept of Unitopian Harmonization is the potential for all things to work in perfect harmony with one another in a way that amplifies the goals and purposes of each being. The future we can strive for with communication technologies is one where our own bioelectric human instruments are not disrupted by our technologies, rather that our own sensitivities and abilities are magnified and enriched by them. The human brain has many wonderful untapped potentials, such as telepathy, telekinesis, and more. If we study these abilities and the frequency ranges associated to them, we can more easily create powerful technologies that are in alignment with all of life. Our current communication technologies are discordant, that is, they are out of alignment with Unitopian harmony. They do not take into account the human bioelectric instrument and our many capabilities to send and receive light-encoded information, otherwise known as the electromagnetic spectrum. Earth grid and animal harmonization. The Earth itself is an electromagnetic being. We currently fill her air with radio and microwave messages zigging and zagging across the land through the atmosphere. The Earth also has a built-in sensitivity that I will call the Earth grid. Our future long-distance communication technology must be built in accordance with the Earth's natural grid. Crystals have an intuitive sense of this grid and will be used in the development of these technologies. Sensitive people can see both the artificial and natural grids in the sky. As I have mentioned before, many animals use the same frequency bands for their communication that we use for our communication technology. The all-one understanding includes animals, plants, and the Earth itself. As we explore technologies that feel better for our bodies, spirits, and minds, we will more easily discover technologies that work in harmony with all of life. Brainwashing. As I define it, brainwashing is the technology of implementing thoughts and expectations about the world without initiating the act of deeper consideration in the end user. Brainwashing is a consciousness technology, and it is often accompanied using other technologies like audio-visual media, ritual and repetition, and high-quality transmission. Narrative. The most common form of brainwashing is narrative. Narrative is the idea of who you are and how you relate to other people. Narrative is insidious because it is built into any media that has a character or a plot. Song lyrics, movie scripts, and television shows all present a certain perspective with certain characters that face certain challenges. These plots are often limited and heavily repeated. the effect that these repeated plots has on consumers is significant. For instance, if you identify as a woman and you have a child, you probably consider yourself to be a mom. Plenty of television shows, movies, and commercials all show you a reflection of what it means to be a mom. As a consumer, you internalize these descriptions as normal, and without even realizing it, you model your behavior after them. If you're a young person in love, songs about love might inform your experience and expectations. But if you identify more with rappers than singer-songwriters, your expectations for what that relationship looks like will likely be different. Narrative is a powerful technology in the hands of media creators. As media creation leaves the hands of big corporations and gets into the hands of the masses, representation in stories will change, opening up our perception for what is possible. High-quality transmissions. If you have ever tried to read something that was badly scanned or listened to a CD that was skipping, you know the frustration that comes with low-quality transmissions. Even if you desire to access the information or data that the transmission holds, it will be less accessible the lower the quality. Hollywood and corporate media creators know, via the CIA, that the clearer and more high quality the transmission, the easier it will catch your attention. This is why there is a sincere effort to create high-quality media. This high-quality media feels more trustworthy than low-quality media. For instance, a news anchor telling lies in a well-lit studio and several expensive cameras will often feel more trustworthy to the average person than a regular person in low lighting telling the truth on YouTube. Again, as regular people get access to the tools of high-quality creation, this inequality will disappear. Additionally, since we are in the age of truth, corporate-created high-quality media will prove itself to be pure glamour and mostly lies, and the average person will gravitate to low-quality media as more relatable and more trustworthy. They will simply feel the resonance of the truth and see beyond the glamour of quality. Ritual and repetition. How we approach our day-to-day lives as repeatable often results in rituals. Your routines, your habits, and your relationships with products and technology are all rituals that have the potential to be imbued with deeper energy. Advertisers and corporations know this, and they manipulate users to be addicted to their products. They also create narratives that make you feel like the product is either your friend or that it will help you be who you want to be. Most music relies on repetition to entrance listeners. Technology should exist to help us approach daily interaction and rituals with beneficial mindfulness and alignment with our highest goals. Consciousness controllers. We are governed, our minds are molded, our tastes are formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. Quote by Edward Bernays. Technology is currently being used to direct consciousness. This has been true and will continue to be true. The information that we are exposed to shapes our expectations for reality and our behavior both in subliminal ways, brainwashing, and overt ways. Historically, homogenized society has functioned by having a ruling class who disseminated restricted, concentrated conceptions of reality through mass media. Conceptions of the nuclear family, genres of music, trends, acceptable behaviors and expressions, and life paths of each archetypal individual were all deeply influenced by examples dictated by mass media. Acceptability and normalcy of gender expectations, sexuality, alternative lifestyles, etc. were all controlled through mass conceptions of shame and conformity. Due to the technological and spiritual singularities, consciousness is expanding rapidly. Attempts to capture, control, and filter the direction of this consciousness are being done for many different reasons. Technological tools are now in the hands of every person. Every potential agenda can be acted upon. An influencer can use beauty filters and paid promotion to launch their new fake eyelash line. A musician can use streaming services to easily reach millions of people. The masses have been given incredible power to create our own content and find audiences who relate to us. the institutions of million-dollar mass media corporations are in direct competition with teenagers with smartphones, and the teenagers often win at capturing the limited attention. Attempts to control the conversation then come in the form of shadow banning and trends of shame that are disseminated through propaganda machines disguised as regular influencers. Power is shifting away from mass media corporations. Consciousness is more free because we have infinite ability to tune into infinite streams of creator-made content. It is important that we celebrate this win. In a Unitopian state, information is free and the power is equally distributed among the people. Unfortunately, the shift from mass media into the hands of creators is not the end of the story for social power control on this planet. The power to control the consciousness of the public has shifted to something even more insidious: tech platforms and their algorithms. Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google, YouTube, etc. are the new consciousness monopolies. While culture is no longer homogenized, similar control mechanisms have been employed en masse and in ever-increasing detail. Rather than a singular focus of societal understanding with a few easily controlled factions, punk, goth, prep, etc., we now have infinite fractalization of subcultures controlled and directed with the help of digital intelligence, DI. In the past, reaching and controlling many thousands of subcultures would have been impossible. Now, with the help of technology, it is easy to target each group with propaganda designed to incite or pacify its members. This control is employed with the use of several types of technology, which I will describe next.